Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and today we're going to get back into home services, real estate, get back into that side of the franchising world. Such a big world in franchising, but I'm excited to have with me today Adam Long. He's the president of HomeTeam Inspection Service. I want to talk to him about how they've been, they got a big anniversary coming up, and also just the growth and their plans going forward. A lot going on in the world today. Happy to have Adam with us again on the show. Welcome back, Adam. Happy to have you.
Thank you, Rob. Always glad to talk to you and excited to be on your show again.
Great to have you. So, let's talk a little bit about HomeTeam. Tell me a little bit about, I know you're celebrating, I think you said earlier, 30 years. Tell me a little bit about, for the listeners that don't know you, a little bit about the background, a little bit about the anniversary, and where you're headed from here.
Of course. So HomeTeam has been around for a little over 30 years. So last year we just celebrated our 30th year franchising. And a big part of that is home inspections didn't exist a lot more than 30 or 40 years ago. When people bought a home, 50 years ago, home inspections were not part of the process. And so as consumers became more savvy and as more people realized that homes were a huge investment that they didn't know everything about, think about it, 50 years ago, everybody was handy. 30 years ago, not so much. 5 years ago, people have no idea what's going on in a home and they keep getting smarter. Home inspections were born. HomeTeam was one of the first companies involved in that, and we've been moving, strongly forward ever since. In fact, when we first got into it, not only were home inspections in the infancy, but HomeTeam brought something a little bit different to the equation. And the interesting thing about that is our name, HomeTeam, meaning that your average person, when they hire a home inspector, they're just going to have one person show up at their home and do a home inspection in 3-4 hours. HomeTeam sends a team of home inspectors, same price, but half the time, because we send 2 inspectors out, and they basically break up the inspection into 2 sections and then get out of there usually in anywhere between 90 and 120 minutes. So that was what we brought to the industry. That was in its infancy. Now 90% of homes are inspected, when that real estate transaction takes place. And of course, a lot has changed in 30 years, but we're excited to celebrate, and we're excited that home inspections is still such a vital part of the real estate transaction.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about what you said. Well, it didn't exist before 30, 40 years ago. And I was just kind of churning through my brain like, well, yeah, the people tend to start to get a little more like the legal system has evolved. Let's just say that.
As well.
So we don't buy things from folks unless we know for sure, right?
No, it used to be a handshake. Oh, something's wrong with the home. No problem. I'll get that fixed. Well, now if it isn't in the contract, good luck. So that's
exactly.
Why, so the legal side of the world is probably a big part of why home inspections exist as well.
Yeah, but tell us a bit about that. I thought that was interesting. HomeTeam, the brand, and your concept. And that was actually my follow-up question is about that approach that you have. Tell me a little bit about why you did that. What problem you were solving that you saw in the industry, being a pioneer, being one of the early ones. Like, what was it you saw about home inspection that kind of led to this idea of team and having a group go out and do it?
No, it's a great question. Team, of course, is part of our name, and that's what I'll focus on. But 2 other aspects of what HomeTeam does, which is professionalism and the use of technology, are also things that help separate us. And so when we came into the world and looked at home inspections, our founder started his own home inspection company. And what he did is he actually spoke with realtors and clients and asked them, what do you like and what do you don't like about home inspections? And some of the things that they didn't like was that home inspectors weren't professional. Home inspectors weren't utilizing technology. And the biggest thing they didn't like was home inspections took 4 hours. And that's a long time for a realtor and the clients and everybody to be at the house waiting for one person to finish the job. So when HomeTeam was created, we brought the professionalism. We've always been professional. We've always dressed at the standard of the realtor, the banker, et cetera. We brought in the technology from the beginning and used computer systems, even back when they were much more antiquated. But most importantly, we bring the team. And that really saves everybody time. You get the same inspection, you get the same, quality, but in half the time for the same price. It's really a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah. I would even go further to say, just from the outside in, I would say even the quality might be better, like having collaboration, right? Having someone else with you just seems like it might be easier, right? If you run into a problem, question, awesome idea, right?
You bring up a great point. I always like to set the bar as you're going to get the same quality inspection, but you're right. You have two sets of eyes, which number one makes the inspection safer. You always have somebody working with you, holding the ladder, making sure, but you get that second set of eyes is like, what do you think about this? What is your opinion on this, particular, piece of the equipment that we're looking at? And so you're right. HomeTeam would probably agree with you in that you even get a better inspection. And the big question people ask a lot of times is it cost more? And because we can do it in half the time, we can do more inspections per day, so we don't have to charge more than that single inspector.
Yeah, exactly. That's very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So tell me, I know from a marketing standpoint, with a lot of local businesses, local franchise models, being involved in the community is extremely important, right? I mean, just from a business standpoint, you could kind of think that through and say, well, yeah, of course. But there's like multiple purposes for it. And a lot of brands really focus on local involvement, and partly because of the brand's ethos, what they're about, but also it's a great approach to business and business growth, whether you're partnering with other businesses or you're partnering with local folks, right? Potential clients. But tell me a little bit about your community involvement, because I know you've worked with some. I love anything to do with kids. So I know Sunshine Kids and KW Cares. It's just a couple that I saw mentioned. Tell me a little bit of how you approach marketing and tying that together in that local area, in the local areas. How does that help the franchisee? And
great question. I mean, homes are all about the community. You're buying and selling something that, brings people to a community. It's exciting. People are either, upgrading their house to a bigger house, or their kids are finally out of the house and they're downgrading to a smaller house, or they're moving across the country. The point is everybody's excited. And with being at home, you're part of that community. So when we look at giving back, we say, how can we help the community? And one of the biggest communities that we work with, in addition to, of course, the clients, is the real estate community. So the first thing we did is we talked to some of our national real estate partners like Keller Williams and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and said, where do you think it's important for HomeTeam to give back? And so that's where we got involved with Keller Cares. So Keller Cares is basically a nonprofit that Keller Williams has created to take care of their agents when needs arise. And so often our franchises will give back a portion of their inspection fee to that nonprofit in order to help facilitate that Keller Cares program. In addition, when we work with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, they're a big proponent of Sunshine Kids, which is a great organization that, of course, takes care of children that are in their most difficult time having cancer. And so what HomeTeam does with those organizations, the same thing, our local franchises will give to Sunshine Kids through the local Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, franchise locations and real estate locations in a way that impacts that local community and those children in that local area. And then on a national front, when HomeTeam goes to their national conference, whether it be, Berkshire Hathaway, Keller Williams, et cetera, we double down on that, and we will sponsor things like the Sunshine Kids, concert at the conference in order to give visibility, not to HomeTeam, but to a very important cause that the agents are already very passionate about. So that's one of the ways that we have always given back. And then we focused even more so in our 30-year anniversary by kind of digging a little deeper and asking agents, what do you care about? Agents outside of Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, what local charities are you involved in? And so what we did, you go to these shows and you're talking to agents and, they're entering to, win a free pair of AirPods or Apple Watch or what may be. Well, we did something different. We said, instead of winning something for you, we want you to enter in our contest. And if you win, you write down what charity, and HomeTeam will donate to that charity on your behalf. And agents loved it. So instead of us giving away, electronics, whatever it may be, we were able to give back to local charities across the nation based on the feedback from these real estate agents. So that was something we focused even more so on in 2023 as we celebrated our 30th anniversary and really focused on giving back.
So I love that. I love anytime brands, businesses, and it's starting to happen more now. It's like this idea of the phrase social marketing, not social media marketing, but social marketing. Like the idea of caring about people around you when you're a great, successful business and being innovative and thoughtful about how can we use our for-profit abilities and do some cool stuff, right? And I see it more and more where you're really going out of your way. And it makes sense. But you're going out of your way to think of a way that it would work for everyone, right? So it's a great marketing idea, but it's also an amazing charity. So it helps everybody and it motivates everybody. And the agents are, I suspect, some of your best partners, right? For your team, for your home team franchisees. So you're taking care of them and you're building that rapport. And so it's just, everybody wins. Tell me a little bit of then, so as president, so combination question. So it's like, this is part of the franchise business owner that you would want is someone that would engage in this way, would be community involved in things and worth those types of programs. Is there a tie between you as president, your vision for the company, your, I guess the culture, right? The way that you want to project the brand, then you take that and say, we need certain kinds of franchisees. Like how does that affect the way you recruit and bring franchisees on board as it relates to what you just said? Because you need a certain kind of business owner, I would think, I'm sure there's flexibility, but sounds like you guys do a lot in that local community. So are you looking for people in a certain way because of that? I guess that's the question.
Well, great question. So, our franchise as a whole is very family centric. Not only are we the only privately owned home inspection franchisor in the nation, meaning everyone else is either owned by a private equity company or conglomerate or whatever. But in addition, the people we're looking for business owners that want to build something bigger than themselves. We're not looking for necessarily somebody that wants to just be a home inspector, but somebody that wants to build a home inspection business. They may start out in the process as being, the first team with someone else on those home inspectors, but the team allows them to build multiple teams of home inspectors. So we're looking for people that are community driven, people that are outgoing, that like building relationships, that like talking to people, that like going into people's homes and having conversations, because unlike a lot of service-based industries, the home inspection world is a world where you are communicating with a lot of different parties, a buyer's agent, a seller's agent, a seller, a buyer, other ancillary services. And so it's really somebody that can bring all those pieces together in what is a very happy, but can be, if not done properly, a very stressful time in the life of that buyer's agent or that seller's agent or that buyer or that seller. Meaning there's a lot going on. They want the home to be what they want. And so the home inspector comes in there and they make sure that they communicate in a way where everybody knows the condition of the home so that moving forward, everybody feels really confident signing those papers, moving forward, buying that home and settling in. And that's what we're looking for. People that are, community oriented, that are very social, but also have that business acumen that allows them to build something bigger than themselves.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, that's franchising, right? That's the beauty of
exactly.
it. It's like the idea of building an asset that's not you, right? And that they both accrete value over time. But franchising is the best way to accomplish that. So in terms of your business, it sounds to me, and I know a lot of brands are like this, there's probably a combination of ways that you build a business. So I kind of want to talk about that first year. I like to always ask the question, what does it look like? How do you onboard someone? What are the important marketing initiatives you have to accomplish? And what is the end result of that first year? And some of the brands I talk to and work with, you want that franchisee to get off to a good start, maybe hit a certain milestones financially and other ways. But tell me a little bit about that first year. Like, how does that look for someone coming on board? And what are some of the important marketing initiatives that you think you need to have?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, anybody that we bring on board, including the owner and their initial team, is all going to be certified to not only whatever state standards exist, but in many cases, higher standards as well. And so we're ensuring that all of our franchises have inspectors that meet or exceed those different requirements, because some states have licensing for home inspections and some don't. And in those states that don't have licensing for home inspections, we still want our owners to go through that process, to take the National Home Inspector's exam and really come into that state at even a higher level than your average home inspection would be required. So that's just the basis, make sure that they're doing a quality home inspection. And of course, the additional training that we give them, the software, the technology, the tools, and our partners that we utilize are going to ensure that you're getting a quality inspection. But in addition to a quality inspection, you want to have additional inspections as well. You want to have a profitable business. And so we teach them how to network with people. Specifically, real estate agents are usually the ones that are going to recommend a home inspection company, because they're doing this every day. Their life is evolved around real estate, and the average client only buys a home every 5 to 7 years at most. And so they don't have a home inspector that they've already used, that they're regularly using, or that they're going to use. So they're going to take the advice of the real estate agent often. So we do a lot of networking with real estate agents. So we work with our franchisees to build those networks. In addition, not only, do many consumers take the advice of their real estate agents, but with the web that it is today, with websites and social media and reviews, et cetera, we want to make sure that the information that clients are looking for about why they would choose a specific home inspection company, whether it be, the type of home inspection, the reports, the insurances provided, the professionalism, all those different things are very visible to them. So we also work with our franchises to make sure they have a great social media network and a great foundation for their business on the web, so that clients can be not only find them naturally, but also when their real estate agent does refer them, that they can go on web and say, you're right, this is a great franchise, this is the reviews, this is the information, et cetera. So we give our franchise all those tools, all the training, and then we tell them to go out there and build the relationships. And their goal in that first year is to get their team to a capacity where they're looking at expanding to multiple teams within that organization. And that's what our owners are really trying to do. They're building those relationships, they're starting to get those inspections, and they're building to the point where they can grow into additional teams, because that's really not only a benefit to them revenue-wise, but it's also a benefit to the client, because the more teams they have, the more availability they have, the more opportunity they have to get to the inspection quickly. Because people don't want to wait 10 days for an inspection. They want to get that inspection done in the next couple of days, and that's where the team and multiple teams comes in.
Right. So speed. So it sounds like from a marketing standpoint, it is, and I work with other brands like this too, where it is key to focus on those relationships. And if you get the right ones, then you can grow significantly.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Because they kind of tee things up. And your job is to respond efficiently, get there, get it done. Because what are we doing? We're helping them do the deal, right? The real estate folks, all the people involved, we're helping that. We're greasing the skids. And so you're driving that through that part. So that's what I'm saying to the partner. I'm saying, look, you can trust us. We're going to be there when you need us. We're going to drive it. We have all this quality. We're going to make you look good, that sort of thing. And so it's important to take care of the real estate or the partner, whoever they may be. And that's really the marketing. So the marketing, then a lot of it is outreach, try to build that network. And you mentioned having a presence on social, which I think is brilliant, because a lot of the prospecting of those specific people is easier found on platforms like LinkedIn or Facebook, right? And then if you have a presence where you can, clearly have reviews or any other information that helps you, and then other posts maybe as well, then that's the impression from your partners is good, right? You have a good, you leave a good impression with these folks that you want to partner with. So how do you go about it? Is it a lot of organic marketing, or I should say more sales or outreach kinds of strategies? Or is there some advertising strategies you guys employ to try to attract these partners to your franchisees?
It's a great question. It's kind of twofold. So on the national front, we work with the National Association of Realtors. We work with Keller Williams. We work with Berkshire Hathaway, with Home Service America. These large organizations that gets HomeTeam and its local franchises in front of a lot of real estate agents at once. And so we do national shows, we do advertising, we do a lot of educational services. We provide continuing education credits so that agents can learn more about home inspections and the different types of things that we offer. So that's all done kind of on the national front. And then that kind of flows through down into the regional, into the state, and the local. And so what we do on a national front is hand in hand with what our franchises are doing on the local front, meaning they're working with local real estate associations, local real estate offices, local organizations to really take those national relationships and deepen them individually within their local community. And they'll involve themselves with, B&I groups. They'll involve themselves with local communities, giving back opportunities, et cetera. Anything to kind of get them in the face of that real estate world. They talk to bankers, and they talk to clients. A lot of times we're working with new construction, or we're working with, clients that are investing in a property or whatever it may be. And so it's really working from a networking standpoint in a lot of different ways to build a presence, not only organically, but also in conjunction with what we're doing on a national presence as well. Because much of what's done on the local level is fed through those national organizations that real estate agents are a part of.
Yeah. And that keeps you busy. If you work that well, that would, you'd have more to reach out to and nurture and build than you probably have time for. You'd have to find the right real estate agents, right? The right players that do the most volume. But it's a great model. It gives the business owner, the franchisee, the ability to make it happen. There's no reason not to make it happen. You just have to do it. That leads me to this question, just quick. What is the Google landscape like for home inspection? Is it something that people tend to Google? I haven't ever done a ton of research there, because I know a lot of times if I'm dealing with buying and selling homes, eventually the inspector comes in later, like you said, right? Usually part of the team, and you don't even think about it, right? If you're the seller or buyer. But is there like something you do look at from an organic Google point of view, like keywords that people search, or any ads that you have found that does help? Or is it just not really that kind of a service that does a lot of good to try to invest there? How does that work?
We don't spend a tremendous amount of time, just focusing on like Google searches. And here's the reason is that, like I said, because it's part of a professional overall process, usually the home inspector is referred. It's usually referred by somebody. What Google really comes in is when a client is wanting to get additional information about a referral, or just to verify that referral is at the level of professionalism, review, et cetera, that they would want to bring. Some people are just going to do that additional research, and that's where that comes in. And some people are just going to say, hey, I'm going through a real estate process, whatever you recommend for my banker, my lawyer, my, whatever, I trust you because I'm paying you, the realtor, to advise me on who's best. And it's in the realtor's best interest to make sure that their client hires a quality and professional home inspector, so that they go through that process in a seamless fashion. Because a home inspector is there not to just service one person. A home inspector is there to make sure everybody understands the condition of the home, so that everybody can make that move forward. Whether there's something that the home inspector finds that might need to be fixed, or whether it's just information that client can use later, the point is that everybody benefits when the home inspection is done properly, because everybody's going into the arrangement with all the information known. And so that's really where we focus our efforts in, is making sure that we're building those relationships. But at the same time, more people are online on social media, Googling, than they've ever have. And so it would be unfortunate if we didn't also focus some of our efforts there, but the majority of our efforts are on network building and making sure that we're known within the real estate, the banking, those types of industries.
That almost makes it clearer and simpler, to be honest. I mean, and I will say that with Google, just looking at Google and being the largest, like a lot of people probably don't realize that Google.com is by far the largest site. By far, like it's way past Facebook and YouTube. What's that? Yeah,
we don't spend a lot of time on Bing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Poor Bing, right? I don't feel bad for Bill Gates. He's making a rebound with the AI.
He's doing okay. He's doing okay.
Yeah. Now they're the biggest company. I don't know if you've noticed that, but Microsoft is officially the biggest company again. So from some of these, anyway. But looking at that rebound traffic, right? So like what I look at is the same exact thing. It's like if you're a professional and your business is driven by referrals and relationships, which yours is, the best thing you can do digitally is a presence online where you're being helpful, you're credible, you have good information to share, right? In different ways, different contexts. And that's the best you can do. And that's the game. And then when you do meet people and you interact, you're doing what you just described. Google is something people use a lot, right? Like, who's this Rob Ganley guy, right? And so they Google the person, and and that's the beautiful page that then comes up, right? You've got your LinkedIn, you've got your Facebook, you've got your website, and multiple things on the site, and maybe some press releases, whatever else you guys are doing. But that's beautiful because that's the combination you want there when it comes to using channels and partners. So I was just curious about that. I figured, most people probably don't Google that much anyway, because you kind of know, yeah, I don't need the real estate person will handle the inspection unless you needed an independent study or something and you needed to go get it. And maybe occasionally they would go and look, but normally it would come through relationships. So makes perfect sense.
That's where the majority of clients find their home inspector. So that's where we focus our efforts.
Exactly. And look, there are models where you gotta really play the Google game, and it's not an easy game. So why complicate it? So we can keep our business simple and still do everything we want to do, which is beautiful. Cool. All right. Let me get back to where I was here. So tell me a little bit about technology. I know we mentioned a little earlier, you kind of touched on it. So again, the goal is quality product, getting things done quickly, getting deals done for folks. Everybody wants deals done when they're buying and selling houses, right? So, make everybody happy if you can come and be efficient in what you're doing. Tell me, I'm sure technology is helping your franchisees not only do really good jobs, but also do more volume, right? Mm-hmm. And work with teams of people doing more volume. So tech has to play a big role. Tell me a little bit about how you guys have thought that through and how that's evolved.
Yeah, the efficiency of the inspection has always been a vital point of what HomeTeam does. Sending two people to the inspection, of course, makes it more efficient, makes it more quick. But involving technology as well is extremely important, especially since you have two people on the inspection collaborating with each other. So from very early, we had our franchises utilize handheld technology on the inspection so they could collect the information digitally. They could do it in a group effort so that digital information is being shared between the two devices, and then give the client that report the same day. So that speed is a combination of the way that we have efficiency throughout all our processes. So first of all, how do you book an inspection? Well, yeah, you can call us. We've got a national call center, employed by our own employees that are, of course, would be more than happy to walk you through the process. But we also have online scheduling. We also have an app that agents can use. So it's very quick to schedule the inspection. And because we use Teams, usually you can get an inspector within 48 hours, whereas, a single inspector might be booked out for 5 to 10 days. Now, once the inspector is hired and our team comes on site, we're going to be very quick because of the use of technology to make sure we get that report, done and efficiently put into the software so that you can get your final report the same day. Because, it's great if you get somebody out there quickly, but you want to get the report quickly as well. And so, booking that inspection quickly, doing the inspection more quickly, and then getting the report quickly are all ways that we utilize technology. But in addition, HomeTeam actually owns the trademark "one call does it all" in the home inspection world. And the reason for that is we want agents to be able to call HomeTeam, and we can do all the services that you need. So if you need a pest inspection or a water test or a mold test or a radon test or a septic inspection or any of those things, HomeTeam is either going to have those staff on site that we can do, or we will make sure that during the inspection, we bring any ancillary inspectors that we hire to basically do the inspection at the same time. So you don't have somebody, scheduling your home inspection, then the next day your pest inspection, and then a radon inspection 2 days later. We're going to do everything at the same time, and we're going to utilize our technology to make sure that all gets completed in that 90-minute to 120-minute inspection. And so technology is really where a lot of those things come together because, you can do it quicker with people, but if you don't have the right proper technology, then it's not going to be seamless in the way the client gets their final report.
Well, yeah, you made me think because that final report, right? You do all this amazing work. You go out there, everything's perfect. The same day, everything's done. You do amazing. all these different kinds of tests, right? And you don't have any of that follow-up, then you don't get the report to the, and then they're following up and they're following up. So it's like those little details, right? Because that feeling of, all right, he was just here and boom, I got this report an hour later or whatever that looks like later that day. But that's a good feeling. That's just got to feel good for everybody that's at that table at that time. Like if they've ever worked with other inspection services that did what you described, where we're going to come back for that. You know what I mean?
Of course. And we always walk through the client at the end of the inspection so they know everything. So we don't just say, hey, we'll send you the report in a couple hours. We actually spend an extra 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the inspection walking the client through the report, making sure they understand everything, and then saying, we're going to do a final review. We're going to make sure this report's perfect, and then we're going to send it out to you. And so, they're not waiting a few days to figure out what's going on. They can have that information right away and say, okay, are there things that need to be fixed? Are there things that need to be negotiated? Does everything look good? What's important to us? Because at the end of the day, something really important that I want to focus on with home inspections is that when that client has gotten to that home, they've already fallen in love with the home. They've already figured out where they're going to put the kid's bedroom. They already have measured walls. They like the neighborhood. The worst thing you can do is scare them about the home. So in addition to us doing the inspection quickly and professionally, we're also non-alarmists, meaning that if there's something wrong with the home, that's great. We're going to tell them about it, but everything is fixable. Everything is negotiable. The worst thing you can do is take the home that they've already fallen in love with and scare them away from it. And then they end up getting a home that they didn't like as much. We're there just to share the information, make sure everybody knows, including the realtors, so they can do their job and negotiate any types of fixes or price changes, et cetera, so that person can get the home that they've already decided they want. And in the inspection industry, that's not always the norm, because you have a lot of these inspectors that have been doing it for 30 years and they're older and they're kind of gruff and they're kind of like, let me find what's wrong with this home. Well, we don't look at it as let's find what's wrong with this home, although we do. We look at it as we want to give you a picture of the entire home, the good, the bad, the things that need fixed, safety items, et cetera. But at the end of the day, every home is livable. Every home is sellable. We just want to tell you the truth about that home so you can decide the next steps. And that's really what we're doing. So we're not there to scare somebody, but we are there to make sure they have all the information to move through with their home buying process.
That's like a nuance that would be not immediately observable, but something that, again, a franchise that does it for 30 years and is a franchise brand that then helps others get into business, the depth of knowledge that you have in inspections as a franchise brand is much higher. But it seems like that would be normal. And I deal with that sort of in technology, right? Like, I've been in a lot of negotiations, a lot of deals, and no matter what it is you're doing, the other side, sometimes you got to respect where they're at, where their head's at. And like you said, with the home buyers, they know in their head that maybe things could fall through, but they don't want them to fall through. And they certainly don't want to hear, oh, you have mold or something scary that people probably are oversensitive to, right? So it's like you do have to be, on one hand, very good at finding the issues, but then the skill of explaining the options to move forward is not immediately obvious, and you could do a lot of damage to the rest of your partners and everybody involved if you don't handle it the right way. I always found communication.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about how you explain that, because many times 30% of almost all homes year after year are bought by first-time home buyers, so they've never bought a home before. And then, like I said before, people are not as savvy about homes as they used to be. Not everybody has their own tool shed in the back like it was in 1940. Most people don't have a bunch of tools. They don't understand how homes work. And so it's too easy to scare somebody off with something that really isn't a big issue, especially because it can be remediated or fixed. Something might look scary, but it might only be a $20 fix. And something might not look scary and it's a $1,000 fix. That's what the home inspector is there to make sure that the client and the realtor and everybody involved understands the condition of the home, not just them trying to tout how much they know about the home. And that's part of why HomeTeam is there, is to professionalize an industry that is still made up of a lot of just, owner-operator home inspectors that do it maybe even part-time and don't have those social skills or that professionalism that's really needed in that, because nobody would put up with an unprofessional banker or an unprofessional realtor. But why would they put up with an unprofessional home inspector? We look at ourselves as the same part of that team. Bankers, real estate agents, us, the clients. We're all working together. We're all professional, and we all have the same goal, which is to move them into that house that they've already fallen in love with.
Yeah, very cool. Keeping it simple. That's the end result, right?
Exactly.
What is the end result, right? That's good to think it through like that. So let me wrap things up. I really appreciate you taking the time. I feel like we could sit here for the rest of the day and just hang out. I think you have a few things to do today, so I'm going to go ahead and let you get back to work. But before I do, I wanted to just kind of wrap things up with, maybe it's a twofold question. I know you guys have intention to expand this year. You've been growing. Tell me a little bit about the marketing of how do you zero in on the priority markets? What are some of those areas of the country for our listeners? And then from there, do you have any advice for anyone that might come across you, or maybe a franchise opportunity they're thinking about? Any advice for someone that's thinking about starting a business? So first, how do you find the folks in the areas that you're prioritizing? What are some of your top strategy? And then what advice would you have for someone that might be looking at you guys right now?
Yeah, both great questions. So, first of all, we've been around for 30 years, but, we started in Ohio. So we've kind of built ourselves concentrically. So, we have a large presence, of course, in the Midwest, down into Florida and even into Texas, but we really haven't built as much in the West. So there's a lot of opportunity still in California and in Washington and in Arizona, areas like that. So that's where we're looking for franchise owners in the first place. But the markets that we're looking at also are markets that have a lot of opportunity. We don't just open a franchise anywhere. We very specifically open up franchise markets that have the ability to build beyond one inspection team. So when we open a market, our market, size of our territory is going to be 2 or 3 times the size of most competing home inspection franchises, because we're not looking to just keep one inspector busy. We're looking to keep a business busy. And so we have protected territories that we have reviewed from an inspection standpoint, how many homes are sold, from a real estate standpoint, how many real estate offices are located in that. And we create these territories, and then we look for business owners. We look for people that have the acumen and the experience to own a business. Maybe they were a mid-level manager, maybe they retired from the military, whatever it may be. If they have a good personality, they like the idea of the real estate world, and if they're handy, that doesn't hurt else. Those are the type of people we're looking for, and we'll train them. We'll teach them how to do the home inspections, the marketing, et cetera. But we're looking for people that want to build something bigger than themselves. And we do that through a lot of different things. Of course, we have a lead generating website. We work with business coaches throughout the country that are talking to people that are interested in transitioning. We work with military, people transitioning out of the military. We have numerous franchises that left the military at colonel or even higher. And so, these are the types of people that we're looking for. But we're also very careful, who we actually move forward with. Like I said, we're a family. So, when we bring people to Discovery Day, once they've gone through all the process, we're not trying to get them to sign a contract that day. We want them to take that information, take it back, think about it, review it, say, is this what I want to do? And then we want to make that decision together. We think you're a good fit. You think we're a good fit. Let's sign that agreement and move forward in an inspection world, because there's a lot of there's a lot of franchises out there, and not every franchise is a fit for every person. We want to make sure that our franchise owners find a fit with HomeTeam. And so that's our expansion plan. And then as far as what people are looking for, I kind of started going into that. When you're looking at a franchise, do your research, look at the franchise disclosure document, the item 19, talk to other franchise owners, make sure you're taking the time, make sure you're not pressured, et cetera, because there's a lot of franchises out there, but not every franchise is a good fit. And not every franchise might offer the support that you really need. And so HomeTeam really prides itself in being a good fit franchise for the right people. And our growth model is not how many franchises we can sell in 1 year, but how many good franchise owners we can find that are going to agree with us on how to build the business. And that's how we look at our growth plan. So our growth plan is to grow, but not so aggressively that we're opening up locations that aren't going to succeed.
Yeah, no, and I think that's that. And I hear that form of what you just explained most conversations I have with franchise brands, with franchise leaders. And that's the reason why franchising is so successful.
Yep.
And as someone who's had plenty of failures, especially with technology, because it's a shiny object syndrome, I chase things that looks good. It's the next. I think AI really is the next big thing. I really would say it's pretty darn big.
I agree.
But you tend to do that. But franchising is the most successful model I've ever seen. I've never seen people be able to start a business so successfully, more consistently. It still takes all the ingredients, right? There's ingredients. And I think discipline and hard work and being willing to listen, right? And be part of the team and adapt to that brand. But no better way to be in business than to be in business, not by yourself, right? For yourself, but not by yourself. And as I said, I think it was exemplified during COVID when the industry went through COVID together, and we did a lot of interviews. And what an amazing testament to franchising, just the idea of it. So I recommend every call we do, every interview I do, I always recommend to the audience, reach out. Any of the guys we interview, like yourself, Adam, would be an amazing opportunity to be able to talk more with, learn more from, because again, the approach of franchising is what works. And that is that we're in it together. We have to make money together. We have to succeed together, impact the world together. We want the right fit. And we want you to make the right decision. So that's the good news. And so they're always willing to chat with anyone. So if you're listening today, you're not sure, I highly recommend. What's the best way to reach out to you guys? What's the website address and if there's a phone number or anything like that?
Yeah, of course. It's hometeam.com is our consumer side, and then hometeamfranchise.com is our franchising side. And both of those sites are going to have, phone numbers, contact pages, anything you want. So basically, if you remember hometeam.com, you can get anything you want about HomeTeam and make sure you can reach out to us.
That's perfect. Nice and short. Hometeam.com. That's what we want. So good stuff. Well, listen, Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure. I know you'll be back. We'll talk again. Good luck on this year's growth. I know that it'll be a good year for you. Don't see the home business changing much other than more homes and more people. So
Agreed.
All good there. Anything else you wanted to leave with the audience, or any final thoughts or parting thoughts?
Yeah, the last thing I would say is, and you kind of hit on it, is, the home inspection world is a great industry to be in. Not only do I believe that 2024 and beyond are going to be great, real estate, years in general, but it's a great world because, unlike a lot of other, realms out there, the home inspection world does require people to go through a home. Will technology advance? Of course. Will AI be involved? Yes. But it still physically takes individuals going through the home, looking and visually inspecting that home. And because of that, we believe that it's a very, very strong industry for people to get involved in, and that there's a lot of opportunity. And that at the end of the day, home ownership is always the best path toward wealth. And so people will always continue to buy homes, sell homes, especially as life changes. So we're excited to be in the industry that we're in.
Exactly. I think homes are great. Yeah, exactly. The experience of owning a home, being in a home, living in a home, all good stuff. And, you made a good point. I think it's clear just to emphasize what you just said. And that is true, that business owners like yourself, leaders like yourself, have to be thinking about AI, right? How will it help enhance? And that's what you're doing. You're saying, well, how will it help us improve? But you're in the relationship business. You just said it. And I think the relationship business, the good news is we'll all have more time for them. We'll be able to spend more time.
That's the hope that would be AI provides.
That's what we're trying. That's what us tech guys are trying to do over here.
Exactly.
Anyway, sounds good. Well, it's great to have you. And again, appreciate your time today, and bye for now.
Hey, thanks so much, Rob. Really appreciate talking to you and being on your show. Thanks again.